Hello everyone, it's Belinda here with a new project for the Hip Kit Club design team. Today I am creating a 12x12 layout using the October 2025 Hip Kits. Lately I've been leaning into a really clean, considered style, keeping things streamlined but using really intentional choices so it never feels flat. And with a really strong storytelling focus. So that's what you're going to see here today. I've really enjoyed working with one of our exclusive cut files for this month's assignment and modifying it to make it fit the softer, Halloween-ish story that I wanted to tell. So as usual, I am starting off with a textured white cardstock as the base for my layout, and I am matting it onto the B side of the Full of Wonder 12x12 patterned paper. I've trimmed my white cardstock down to about 11.5 inches square, and then I have cut out the center of that patterned paper, leaving a 1-inch border around the outside. That way I get to really make the most of these beautiful pattern papers and I don't waste anything. I lay that down onto my mat. I now always use just a little bit of wet adhesive to lightly adhere that down before taking it over to my sewing machine and adding a stitched border. I find that using the wet adhesive allows me to just move it around slightly if it isn't placed down perfectly. So I showed you there I added a stitched border. By the time we get to the end of this video though, that border is going to have changed color, and I will come to that in just a little while. But for now, I am adding I suppose the main color block of the layout. I've chosen 3 patterned papers here: the Fabulously Foolish, the Warm and Cozy, and the Pretty Plaid patterned papers. And I was looking for something that was going to complement my photo without contrasting or clashing too much with it. I've cut them down into 2.5-inch strips, and then I wanted to place them down onto the background first with the photo over the top, just to get a bit of an idea of how wide I wanted those to be. And I think from memory, I go with about, I think it's about 10 inches wide for each of those strips. So you can see I am just laying some vertical blocks down. I'm getting the placement right first, then I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine and I am adding a stitched border around each of those vertical blocks. Then I'm going to mat my photo onto another one of the pattern papers, and I'm sorry I can't recall the name of this one now, but it's this beautiful pink background with some lovely florals on it. So while I am matting this, I will just let you know that I got probably about 75 to 80% of the way through this layout. I was up to the point of getting my journaling strips down, and I had a really, really big whoopsie moment, which fortunately was not on camera. That meant that I had to pull the entire thing apart and try and build it again. So in the end, I didn't actually end up wasting anything other than just the original white cardstock background. But when I went to restitch the border, I decided that the black was just a little bit too bold and contrasty. So I ended up using the same pink that I used to stitch those color blocks down. And now here is the cut file that I am using on this layout. This is one of our exclusive cut files. It's from July 2025 and it is called the Scallop Color Wheel cut file. It comes in 2 pieces, but I didn't want the scalloped border on the outside of it. So I've just used the centerpiece, which is a circle. And as you can see, it is segmented. I've backed it with some vellum because I wanted to retain the see-through look here. And then I cut the cut file in half. I knew that I wanted to have it on either side of my photo. And once I had it in place, I've taken my pencil and I've just put a cross onto some of those segments that I want to remove from the cut file. I absolutely could have used it as is, as full circles, but for me, it just felt a little bit too blocky. So I wanted to soften it up a little bit. And the way that I have done that is by cutting some of those segments out. Really simple and easy to do. And that just softens it all a little bit, gives it a little bit more movement as well. I am a really, really big fan of making your supplies work for you, not the other way around. So modifying cut files is something that I do all the time. Modifying physical products is also another thing that I do all of the time. I really, really, really do believe that as scrapbookers, our supplies have to work for us all of the time. I'm going to add just a little bit of softness behind the photo. This is another, I suppose, trademark of my style. I have grabbed some tissue paper. I like to really scrunch it up first to give it lots of extra texture, particularly when I'm working with cleaner designs. Adding that extra texture from the scrunchiness of the tissue paper just really helps to add some visual interest and keep it from looking too flat and too boring. I'm using my gigantic scissors to trim down just a really light border around the edges. And then before I start getting ready to adhere it down onto the background, I want to have these cut file pieces adhered to the photo. And then I'm going to lift the whole block up onto some dimensions. So my goal here was to make sure that those see-through cut file pieces are raised off the background just a little bit, so that you've got, again, a little bit of dimension. You can see some shadowing there once it's all placed down. I've used a little bit of double-sided adhesive because the edges of those cut files, they weren't really overlapping the photo mat a whole lot. So I've added just a little bit of adhesive there to keep them in place. And the dimension that I'm using is a piece of what do we call it? It's the thick cardboard that comes in packaging really often when we purchase products. I keep stacks of this in my little craft room, and I use that for dimension behind my photos now instead of foam. It's lower in profile, which means it's not adding a huge amount of bulk to my layouts, which I love. You can see that I've used some wet adhesive there. Once I laid it down onto the page, I realized that those cut file pieces, they were going to fall flat. So I wanted to keep the dimension behind them. I grabbed my little foam squares, and I'm sorry for my head sticking underneath there. I think I had moved my camera around just a little bit too much when I was filming this. The foam squares, they were going to be too visible behind the corners of the cut file. So instead I have reached for these foam strips, and they are the perfect width to layer behind each of the lines that come out from the segments that come out from the center of the circles. And that just helps to lift it off the page a little bit and give that dimensional look that I was really aiming for. So you can see I have already grabbed my title that is from the alpha that came in the kit. It says Disco Darling, and the floral pieces that you can see me working with here now are from the Pocket Life kit. It is the 6x8 paper. It's the same design as the 12x12 paper that's in the patterned paper pack. But it's obviously in a much smaller scale, so I have fussy cut that out. And at first I toyed with the idea of using them to frame the photos, so having them sort of sit on the corners, but it was a little bit too much. It was overwhelming the photo a little bit too much. So instead I've trimmed them down, and I've made sure that when I've trimmed them down, I will be able to reuse those little pieces that didn't make it onto this page. And instead I am using them as these beautiful floral embellishment strips down either side of my photo. Just building some really simple clusters on the top right and bottom left of the photo, and using that pumpkin, one of those beautiful floral pumpkin pieces from the one of the ephemera packs. And I have used the rain clouds. This is a Halloween disco layout, but I have used the rain clouds. And the reason that I have used the rain clouds here is that the journaling that you can now see has magically appeared at the bottom of my page. It's getting a little bit deep with the story, as it turned out this disco did not go super well for my daughter. She didn't have a great experience, and I felt it was really important to document the good and the bad. So those little rain clouds there, they just represent the fact that she looked beautiful. She was so exciting. She was so excited. But sometimes even the best stories have a little bit of rain falling on their parade, which is what happened here. To finish off this layout, I am going to grab some of the foliage pieces from one of the ephemera packs. I've chosen a couple of colours that coordinate well with the kit, and I'm going to tuck those in behind the little embellishment clusters, and then I'll finish off with some of the foam stickers that also come in the kit. Thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to get your hands on these exclusive Hip Kit Club products, you can find all of the kits and add-ons over at hipkitclub.net. And don't forget, you can use my affiliate code BelindaJane to get 10% off your first order. There really are so many benefits to being a Hip Kit Club subscriber. There are discounts on additional kits, bundled or bi-monthly shipping options, access to monthly project sheets, and free cut files every single month. We'd also really love for you to join us over on the new Hip Kit Club Craft and Connect group on School. It's such a warm, inspiring, creative community, and you don't have to be a Hip Kit Club subscriber to join us. Everyone who loves scrapbooking and papercraft is welcome. While you're here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any of our upcoming design team projects. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.